great to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm the president of the BCS. That was a bit of a shock. Wow, that's taken some doing, and so I just thought I'd talk you through my career for a little bit of time. I don't want to be too much focused on me, and then what I thought I'd do is I'd tell you about other people's careers and careers that I've seen within the IT industry, within the tech professions. And then I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about some of the pitfalls, not because it's crap, because it's not, but because I want you to be forewarned so that by the time you get there, you'll go, I can deal with this, I can handle this whole thing, no worries. So that's what I'm planning to do. Is there a big echo on my mic?
Small little feedback.
We'll see if it goes, if it works. So, 1977, Patti Smith, and The Clash, and Heatwave. So a bit of punk, bit of funk. And Ian Jury, and I become a computer operator. A computer operator is really basic. We used to walk. We worked it out, 24 miles in a week, getting tapes and putting them on tape drives. It was heavy work. It was also fabulous fun and completely outrageous. Bit of television, David Bowie. I became a shift manager working for Citibank Savings, so one of the big banks. And that was all right. Still working nights though, doing lots of shift work. And then I became a data center manager. But it wasn't a kind of big data center. It was a little research data center. And and a bit of Dillinger. Oh, I love Dillinger. And then there was an incident at Citibank. And I felt that they weren't as diverse in their thinking as they should have been. And so I decided I was going to leave. There was something that just didn't sit right with me in my gut. And so I left and I became a consultant. At Citibank, I'd been doing, after the data center manager role, they'd said, oh, could you map out this thing? It was great. And I got to map out how they were going to do change and problem management. So I went out as a consultant working for myself and became a change and problem management kind of guru. And went off to BT. And I worked at BT for 9 months. It was wonderful. I haven't laughed so much ever. It was so much fun. And there was a group of about 6 of us working in the same office, and we would scream with laughter. And it was totally, totally wonderful. And then I saw a job working at IBM. Now, one of the things that I'd always wanted to do was I'd always wanted to teach. And in fact, so I didn't get any degree. I kind of did this on 2 failed A-levels. So completely failed my, you see, I went to see the Sex Pistols. It was more interesting. And so one of my lecturers, when I finally did do a degree, she said to me, but why do you want to be a teacher? And I said, well, I just kind of want to be a teacher. And she said, that's a working class desire. Is it? Is it? Yes, she said, because, that's the highest thing you could possibly aspire to. That had me thinking, like, wow, did I really carry that stuff around with me? But anyway, I did want to be a teacher, and I spotted this job working at IBM as a teacher, teaching IBM's customers how to use technology. And I thought, oh, I could do that. I could so do that job. And so I applied, and I got an interview, which was shocking in itself. Like, wow, they gave me an interview. And they gave me the job. They said I'd done the worst test, the worst, one of these psychometric, worst outcomes they'd ever seen. But I was incredibly enthusiastic, and they were going to give me a shot. So there am I, 3 weeks in, as an IT instructor for IBM. and surrounded by men. And there's me, and all these men. And all these men are all Oxbridge educated. And they're all deeply, deeply technical. And I'm thinking, I don't think I belong here. Don't think I belong. And then one of them said, I said, why don't you teach JCL? Why don't you teach that thing? And why don't you teach GDGs on it's something I'd been using all the way through. Why don't you teach that? And they said, well, nobody uses it. And I said, no, everybody uses it at the time. Some of the things we had to do with technology were very basic, very fundamental. I said, everybody uses this stuff. And they use it because you can't cycle round a week. You can't cycle over a 24-hour period. You can't tell when year end is due if you're not using this function. And they went, oh, really? And I said, yeah. Oh, well, we don't teach it because we don't actually understand it either. And I'm like, oh, I do belong because I understand it because I've been using it for the last 7 or 8 years. I get this. So I then felt that I had, through my experience, a reason to be there and to belong. And I had a wonderful time, and I'll tell you about that later, teaching. Bit more music, K.D. Lang through the 90s, bit of jazz, lived with a jazzer for a while. And then Portishead and Massive Attack came along. And I'd done all this training inside of IBM and thought, do you know what? It's time to finish that now. I'm going to take this technical knowledge and I'm going to work inside IBM again, but now as a technical specialist. And we had a new product, and I went and learned that. Got a new partner, and he was really into Frank Zappa, so that was good. So I then had Frank Zappa, and I had dance music and Orbital and a bit of Jackie Mittoo, who, if you haven't heard, you do need to go and find Jackie Mittoo. And then I went into marketing. So I was marketing mainframes for IBM, and that was kind of intriguing. But it didn't last long. I went back to tech. So they said, there's an EMEA role for a technical manager, and we've got a new product. And this new product, we think it's going to be really good, and we'd like you to set up a new team. And here's a few $1 million, and go and recruit a team across Europe and go and sell this new product. And it's never been out there before. It was called Component Broker. And it became a product called WebSphere eventually, when IBM got their naming right, and the marketing. And then I came back to the UK and did some technical management there because there was an issue and they wanted me to sort it out. David Holmes, Let's Get Killed, my favourite. And back to the music, bit more dancing, lots of dancing, bit more Frank Zappa. And then I went into education sales. So this is all for IBM still. And this is around the year 2000. And then I went into strategic business development, did some competitive work, looking at what HP were doing, what Microsoft were doing. So kind of really playing around. And then I went into sales and I sold supercomputers for a while, worked with all the universities. And sales manager, and then I did have a spell back in technical management, and then in 2010 I left and I set up Tectre. That's an enormous long time. Actually, if you've worked it out, that's some 40 odd years. That's shocking. That's well, I did start as a child. And I'm back to the funk and the jazz again, so I come round full circle. But what I wanted to say was that whilst you're being this technical person, you're still yourself. You still got all the desires that you always had, and mine were music. That's me in the data centre, 1977. Very blurry. They didn't have proper cameras then. And you certainly weren't allowed to take them into work. So the fact that exists is... So what was amazing? Well, Sex Pistols were amazing, of course. IBM asked me to go and write a book. They said, could you write a book for us? When I got on the plane, they said, actually, it's 3. It's a trilogy in your first time out. So I went to live in America, and they give you a flat, and it was amazing. And then having worldwide teams, so the new product WebSphere, to have an international team and working with the American team who were developing it, fabulous. So the books, yeah, that was fun. I like to present as well. You wouldn't believe how much pleasure you can get out of standing in front of people and spouting. It's great. And the intellectual stimulation. To be able to go and talk to somebody and kind of go, I get you, I know what you're talking about, I get the technology. Wow, yes, that's so amazing. And you never lose your desire for that. And then teaching, and I need people to go, oh, that was good. I kind of think I understand myself now, all these years on, and I need to be praised on a regular basis. And I know if I've got a boss that isn't working, they're not telling me that I'm good. It might be because I am not good, and I'm doing a bad job. But if they're not doing it, then I'm not happy. And all that. Now, some people say you shouldn't put loads of words on a slide. To my mind, you do. You just say to people, look at that. This is what other people say about their careers in tech. Just have a read. Being recognised by my peers from across the industry. Being at the forefront of technology. These are some of the people that the management team for the Lovelace know really well. Led me to a conference in Norway where I set up a charity supporting some of the poorest, most challenged people in northern Uganda. I realised that technology can be used for them. These are other people's life experiences. How much fun I had in tech. See, it does work. You just have to give people time to read, you see. And so, yeah, that flying to America with a trilogy to write, I got boarded quite early on the plane, and there was this guy already sitting there. And he had a gold tooth. And I'm like, oh, you're gold tooth, and they boarded you early. And he went, yeah, sucked his tooth. And I went, oh, is that because you're somebody? And he said, yeah, I'm called Poetic. He was a rap artist. He'd been doing the Brixton Academy the night before. And I went, oh, well, I'm going to write a trilogy. He was really cool, actually. He was a really good poet and sadly died very early. BCS Women, when I chaired BCS Women, we applied for a prize to the UN and we won for our work. And hurrah to BCS Women. So that was really good. But there were other things that I really enjoyed, like when I was teaching, one of the things I had to do was I had to run multiple virtual mainframes so that my class of people could all have a mainframe. I loved that bit. That was cool, and it was interesting, and it was problem solving. And then I chaired something called Healthcare at Home, 2004. This is a holographic contact lens that was aiming at looking at your blood sugar so that we could see whether you were okay if you were a diabetic. 2004. Chairing that was just so cool. And those things are just, the patches for diabetes, they're just coming to the market in the last 2 years. We were doing that in 2004. So, this is really leading edge stuff. And I'm not sure about being the BCS president yet. I'll tell you at the end of the year. But a lot of things. Now, whilst I was doing all of that, I was also doing lots and lots of external roles. These are really, really good for you, incredibly important. So if you can get external volunteering roles, or paid even, then these are really useful. And the reason that they're useful is they build up your sense of self-esteem, your sense of self-worth, and they build a set of skills that you're not getting. So if you're kind of spending your days coding, or you're spending your days setting up databases, or whatever you do, and then you step outside and you go and organise a big event for somebody, you've got two sets of skills going on. And these are really powerful, and you can play with those on your CV, and you can kind of drive your career through them if there are any issues. So back in 1987, Citibank said, oh, can you be in our Women in Tech committee? And then I was a non-executive director on a government body to support women in science, technology, engineering and maths. And I did WISE, which is the Women in Science and Technology and Engineering. And 2010, chaired BCSWomen. I was finance lead on that beforehand, so I had to work out how we'd spend money on events like this. And then I became chair, did 5 years. Just a request of you, if you get these senior roles, don't stay. Give it a decent time and then walk away, because other people need the opportunity. And, you know, don't be that person who clings to that outrageously important role, because other people don't get a chance to do it. And the books. So this one is MVS and ADSM and tape libraries. And that was the one, or one of the three, one of the trilogy that I wrote out in America. And this one is written by Hannah, and me. Is anyone? Yeah. And we just thought there's some lessons to be learned. So there's nobody else here who was on it, is there? Not today. So yeah, that was interesting. Interesting to write. I don't think we're going to write another one, are we? It was a bit horrid.
Next week, Gillian.
Oh. So what I wanted to kind of show you through all of this is, when you have your career, you kind of think, oh, well, I'm going to be at this for 20, 30 years. You're so not. You know, it's more like I'm planning for another 10 years from now, and I've already done 40 some. So you're thinking about something that's expansive, that's enjoyable, because you don't want to do it otherwise, because it's going to be a life sentence. You want to love it. And what you'll find is that you'll have a skill that might continue all the way through, or it might last for a few jobs and then you stop doing it. So, you know, do I care about mainframes now? No, not really. But I used it back in 1977. I used it in 1999. Interestingly, I used it in 2011. So you do have these moments where a skill will reoccur. And also think about these voluntary roles, because that's another set of skills that you can take along with you. So here's mine. Operator, mainframes, JCL, leadership, become a shift manager, data center manager, ops analysis in that period around 24 to 26, still mainframes, leadership, now doing change management, consultant in change management, learning to present, voluntary role. So this is where I'm starting to pick up different skills. And now I can say, oh, I can chair meetings. I couldn't do that before, but I learned to do that because I'm chairing the Women in Tech group. And then presenting, running some projects, and then I go and be an instructor, but I'm still teaching mainframes. So, you know, those skills bounce along with you, but you don't necessarily stick to one skill. Oh, you know, I'm a Java coder. It's going to be a long job, this thing. And so lots and lots of skills, and try and fill it with the dark circles of doing some voluntary work. So just thought I'd give you some facts about the tech industry in the UK. So around about 1 million technical people in the UK, technical professionals. Now, you can see lots and lots of different figures on this. So in the papers, you'll see 1.2 million, 2 million, all sorts of different figures. But just recently, we did some coding and we said, right, who's really got a job that says they are a technical professional? And using the ONS statistics, then we came to about 970. This is Statista in 2021 saying about 940K. But yeah, CompTIA, different idea on that one. And then about 261,000 businesses employing more than 10 people in the UK. Now, this is all businesses. Except that when you get to about 10 people, in fact, when I got to 5, it's like, oh, we need a techie. We've got 5 laptops. We need a techie all of a sudden. And we need somebody who can sort things out and get the apps sorted. And actually, by the time you've got 10 people, you definitely need a techie. Now, whether that's a techie that you buy in, so, you know, I bought 7 hours of Paul's skill and he works for some other company, or whether you employ your own, it's still a set of jobs. So don't think that every job is going to be in the big companies. However, this is scary. 57% of companies say they can't find the technical skills they need. They just can't find them. That figure shifts around depending on which piece of press you're reading. But it shifts around also in time. So 5 years ago, it was about 40% of companies saying they couldn't find the skills they want, and now it's 57%. So, you know, you might see one that says 53%, you might see one that says 59%, but around about. Now that means you're all really, really in demand. So don't let anyone tell you that they don't want to employ you. You are hugely, hugely in demand, and we need you. However, less than 10% of open source contributions are from women. This is a voluntary role. This is something that you can do to build a skill that may lie outside of what you're doing. Organisations are now looking for the benefits of equity in the workforce. So some years ago, they didn't realise that they needed a woman on their team. They didn't realise they needed people of colour on their team. They didn't realise they needed somebody who was 20 and somebody who was 50. They didn't realise all of this stuff, but they do now. I've got a neat example. These things were designed by blokes. Blokes have pockets. Dressers don't have pockets, not normally. Although these days there's some recognition that that's the case. So the first technician who came up to me and gave me one of these and said, oh, I'm going to mic you up. Yeah, fantastic. Where am I going to put this? He said, oh, well, I don't know. He said, you can put it behind your neck. Okay, I could do that. So we decided that what I'd do is put it in the back of my tights. I'd hang it on the back of, you know how flimsy they are. So halfway through this presentation, you might have noticed I walk around a bit, and I could feel it sliding down the back of my leg. And if there had been a woman on that design team, she'd have said, women's clothes don't usually have pockets. We need to do something about this. So organisations are really beginning to understand that diverse experience in life brings benefits in its own right, and they need that. So not only can they not find the people they want, but they want people like you, because you're different, and that's really, really important. So when you go out and you decide what kind of job you want, don't just think, oh, I want to be a Java coder and I want to work for IBM. That's not always going to solve it. Sometimes it's, I want to work for somebody where they say thank you to me all the time because that's me and I understand me. Or I want to work where I can travel because that's me and I get a kick out of travelling. Or I want to work where I can build some IP of my own and I can produce patents and somebody can say, she designed this. If that's what you want, that's what you're looking for in a job. And then finding the cultural fit in the company is the second thing. So, IBM and Microsoft and Amazon and Ocado and everybody, they sound like wonderful places. And believe me, they are, but they're not for everybody. And we're all different. And consequently, find the one that suits you, that makes you feel at home, that makes you feel right. And then don't just think that there's only a coding role for you. Look at this lot. This is just tiny, so you could be a blockchain engineer. You could go into sales. If you think about technology, you have to create it, and then you sell it, and then you deploy it, and you run it, and you manage it, and then you kind of go all through the cycle again and go, oh, we need to do some more of that. And consequently, at every stage, there's a different set of jobs you wouldn't even know existed. And just to keep us all on our toes, instead of being a blockchain engineer, you could be a blockchain programmer, or you could be a blockchain specialist or a blockchain consultant, and nobody tells you that actually, fundamentally, they might be absolutely the same thing. So you're searching between the websites for all sorts of different titles for the same thing. And that's why it's really important that you kind of feel that it's for you. It's where you'll get praised, where you'll get the intellectual stimulation, and that's what will work for you. And so you can kind of look for things like this. So how does the recruitment and advertising sound? Are there any women on the pictures? If there's no women on the pictures, then have they thought that women might want to apply? Have they got any in there, And so that might be youth homosocial reproduction. If they're looking for women and the people who are interviewing are women, then they might like you just because they get you. You're a woman. It could be that. And it could be that the thing that turns you on is the dollars. And therefore, is that good for you? Is that what you want? And do they say things like, we do equal pay audits? These are important things, because there are some pitfalls. So I said I'd tell you about a few pitfalls. So what caused me grief was seeing other people succeed when I wasn't. So I knew that I was doing a good job, because they kept telling me I was doing a good job. They were giving me praise because I'd chosen that job. But I seemed to get stuck. And I would get to quite senior roles, and then I'd get stuck, and I'd watch these other people doing really well. And then I had one or two caustic managers where you'd go into work and you'd go, no, I don't want to see him. I really don't want to see him today. And he'd turn up and he'd not say hello to you, and he'd say hello to everybody else in the room, but not to you. And that was really hard. And just as an aside, if you get one of those, no point in trying to fix it. Just leave. Just go. Find another role in the same company. Do it carefully. Give yourself time. But you can't change them. The only way you can change them is to join the local support group within the company, the women in, or the ethnicity in, or the LGBTQ in. Join that and go, we need to sort the management out. We need to train them, which is one of the things we did at IBM. There is harassment out there, and you need to find ways of dealing with it. I'd say get yourself on an assertiveness course if you can. If you can find one of those in your first job, or there's loads on YouTube. Go and do some assertiveness training. But the thing that I think I want to spend a little bit of time on is this. Has anyone heard of microbehaviours, microaggressions? There's a wave if you heard of it. Nice one, nice one. So lots of this going on. So there are 3 people who were instrumental in kind of doing the research on it. There was Henry Peirce, Mary Rowe. They were at MIT at about the same time. Mary Rose said micro inequities. Henry Pierce said microaggressions. He was a black man, she was a white woman. What's happened is microaggressions tend to get used around ethnicity, and micro-inequities tend, but not always, get used around women. But when you look at the definitions that they were laying out, they were the same things. And I think something there was about the tone of Henry Pierce's skin and the gender that Mary Rowe had, that we've kind of clung to those definitions and separated them. But to me, it seems that they're all the same. So, brief, commonplace, daily, behavioural, environmental indignity. And by environmental, what they mean is within the system around you. So I'll show you one in a second. But they communicate that you are not worthy, you are not good enough, you are not the one. And when they do that, they have an impact on you and your self-belief. And the thing is that they're also linked to privilege. So the more privileged you are in society, the less you will see micro-behaviours and micro-inequities. The less privileged, so in a patriarchy, being a female, you are not the privileged one. Being a male, you are the privileged one. It's not your fault, gentlemen. You were born as males. You didn't have a choice. And we were born as females, and we didn't have a choice. And anyone who is, feeling like they're anything else, they didn't have a choice either. It's just we are who we are. So it's not our fault, but we are living in a patriarchal society. And so as a consequence, there are degrees of privilege. And the more privileged you are, the more likely you'll suffer a micro-inequity or a microaggression. And so, yeah. So here you go. This is an environmental or systemic micro-inequity. So this is Dove Summer Glow Soft Shimmer Nourishing Lotion for normal to dark skin. And so what that says is, if you've got dark skin, you're not normal. How wrong? How wrong? So you kind of don't even know that you've noticed it. You certainly, as a white person, you didn't get that micro-inequity. You didn't, it just, in your life, that never occurred to you. But as a person of colour, that's, oh, what, so I'm not normal then? And every time you walk past that on the shelf, in Sainsbury's or wherever, you kind of go, so, yeah, I know, get over yourself. And you walk past it and you're furious, but you're carrying that around with you. And you're carrying around, you're not worthy. And that's not right. That's not right in our society. So here's a privilege wheel. Privilege here, there's a million different ways you could be privileged. So you could be privileged because of your age, because of your profession, because you own a house or you're a renter. It depends on the society that you're in. And so here's a privilege wheel that I'd like you to score yourself on. So it's really, really quick and easy. So this one's got 6 privileges: body shape, age, skin tone, gender, profession, and disability. And if you end up in the outer ring, then you score 5. And if you're in the inner ring, you score 15. And so what you should do is go all round the 6 segments mentally and give yourself a total score of your privilege. Got it? Got it? Just about? Okay, so I've got an example for you. A 24-year-old female, professional, no visible disability, dark skin, on the comfortable side. Different score. And the higher you score, the fewer micro-inequities and microaggressions you will see. So I'm guessing you're scoring somewhere in the 50 to 60 range, which means you are going to see these in your life. It's going to happen. And as you get older, you kind of get a few more points, but really, it's going to be there for you. So you need to tackle it. And you need to tackle these microaggressions and micro-inequities head on. I was going to do a Slido, but what kind of feelings? What's it going to make you feel like, getting all these micro-inequities at you? You're allowed to speak now. What kind of feelings is it going to make? Frustration. Anger. Yeah, really furious. I'd be furious. Feel not good enough. Totally not good enough. And questioning yourself all the time. Gonna make you feel like that. Spot on. And so, consequently, need to be tackled head on. There's a chap called Derald Wing Sue, came after Mary Rowe and Henry Pierce, and he said, look, you can categorise these. They kind of go in categories. So one of them is, where are you really from? You're not a true citizen here. That's shocking, isn't it? It's shocking. Or the systemic exclusion, the thing we've just seen. Or the fact that only in the last 10 years, in fact not even that, can you get plasters, sticking plasters, that are not white. Well, the others weren't white, they were kind of orange. But, you know, but only in the last 10 years could you get one that matched your skin tone. That's a systemic exclusion. And asking you to speak for the whole of your race. So, you know, you're black, you like reggae. That's it. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? So all of these things need tackling. A whole load more. You're so articulate. You're so articulate for a woman? Is that what you mean? Oh, that's so gay, which is really, really sad, because this is such a thing. And it's great that you haven't got an accent. Well, what's great about that then? And then, you know, you need to think broader about the semantics. So when people talk to you, are they saying babe, or sweet, or dear, or love? Because they're all diminutives. Or are they saying mate, or dude, quite cool, or buddy, which are peer words? You're on my level. You're definitely not on my level. And the other one that really gets me furious is aimed at a man, he's a guy. Aimed at a group, they are guys. Now, you would never call a woman guy. So what you are doing is you are saying, you're an honorary member of our group. You're not a proper member. You don't belong. And so when your manager, as you go to work, kind of go, hey guys, very subtly, without you even really realising it, they're saying you don't belong. But every time these things happen, they knock another nail in. And so, fix it before it becomes imposter syndrome. So, this is where you go, I'm good, me. I'm good, I'm fantastic. And you've got to keep believing it. And Amanda said, and Heidi said, you're wonderful, you're awesome, you got here, you are making it through to tech. You are the future, and you are so valued. So just keep telling yourself that. And when somebody kind of says, oh, where are you really from? Go, hey, that's a micro behaviour, not allowed to do that. Tell them. And if they don't get it, then get them some education, which means you've got to join the local group, and you've got to kind of go, oh, we're LGBTQ, and actually we'd like you to have some education because you're not getting it about us. Get that group of mentors, find lots of role models. And role models, just like mentors, there isn't just one. So some role models are for trousers. Some role models are for the way they hold their hands. Some role models are for the way they run projects. They're all different. And have lots of role models and go, I really like what that bloke does. Blokes for women can be fantastic role models. And so I really like what these people do. And therefore that's a role model. That's the way I want to work. Join professional organisations, whatever organisation you can. You know, if you want to be part of the blockchain movement, then join it. It's going to give you so much more. It's going to give you a sense of self-worth. And that sense of self-worth will help the imposter syndrome, will help the fact that people are going, you're not good enough, you. And you kind of go, no, I am. I'm cool. I'm cool because you might not have let me got past the glass ceiling, but actually I became the president of the BCS or whatever your thing is. And do remember to ask for a pay rise every year. You are worth it. And when they say yes, and they won't always, because, you know, there isn't always money around. But when they say yes, yeah, she's telling me stop now. It's all right, we've got a couple left. So, lots of places that you could go to volunteer, and then you learn those other skills, and you get to network. And you know, usually you get a job through people you know, so your next job sometimes will come from folks you know. So networking is good. Go networking. And it makes you stronger inside. You kind of feel that you've done something quite brave networking. Loads of things. Oh yeah, and always keep a record of everything good that you've done. Stick it in a folder, in your workbook, stick it in your email folders. When somebody says, that was amazing, you did a brilliant job, your project was outstanding, you know, you are fantastic, then keep those records, because at the point at which the manager goes, oh, there isn't any money this year, you go, excuse me, big list of things that I've done that are extra to the things that you asked me to do. And this is all the praise I had. Make sure that you keep all that information. See, I told you I was. So I'm happy to take as many questions as you've got. So.
It's actually brilliant.